Ali, welcome. I am super thrilled to be talking to you. I can't wait to hear more about your story and also to share it with more people.
Thank you for having me.
I got to know you totally through social media. I think somehow something popped up on my Instagram feed, and I live in the Raleigh area myself. And turned out you're local and just had a really, really dynamic and good energy. So I would love for you to share a bit more. What is it that you're doing and focused on right now?
I am a Raleigh Realtor. I serve the greater Raleigh area. I'm affiliated with Compass under my own brand, which is Alley Homes here. And I do a lot of business from Instagram, just showing up as myself and yeah, being energetic, being a little weird sometimes, just like sharing what I think is funny. And I just have found that the more I am myself on Instagram, the more I connect with people and the more people reach out to me and say, "Hey, I found you on Instagram. Can you help me?" Um, so I'm always happy to hear when people find me that way that are local, especially. And yes, I've been in Raleigh for about 7 years and I've been a realtor for 5 years.
Okay, very cool. So, what
Mhm.
brought you to Raleigh?
We were in New York City before that, or I was there for almost 10 years.
Mhm.
And my parents actually retired down here. And we were just would start visiting, my husband and I. And when we were thinking of, starting a family after we got married, we were looking at real estate in Connecticut and Westchester and Long Island, like commutable to New York City. And it's very expensive. And the taxes are very expensive. And like for $1 million, you get it like a sad little rundown duplex, basically, in the areas we were looking. And, 20 or $30,000 a year tax bill, depending on where you live, and these monster commutes. And then we would visit here and say, oh gosh, that'd be so much easier. Wanted it. So we just decided to make the leap, basically. And at first we moved in with my parents in their bonus room, and sold our place in the city and yeah, started house hunting here. And yeah, never looked back, basically. It was a great move. And now I help people make that move all the time.
Nice. So, you lived in the city, in New York City? Like,
Yeah.
okay, okay, not in the suburbs. So, that's a bit of an adjustment.
Yes. I've lived all over. I grew up kind of moving a lot.
Hmm.
So for me, I've lived in, all sorts of different suburban versus urban areas. And I loved the city and I had a great time living there, but it does get to be hard. So your dreams kind of change. And I wanted to like drive to a grocery store and park in the parking lot and load my groceries and like drive home and
Hmm.
park in a driveway or garage and bring my things inside. Like stuff like that starts to sound like a luxury when you've been
Yeah.
on foot in the city or dealing with street parking or little things like that, or just everything is kind of a hustle when you live in the city.
Mhm.
So it was a nice break. And my husband is a true New Yorker, was born in Queens and then lived on Long Island. And for someone who's like a real uh, New Yorker, he always thought it was dirty and crowded, the city, which it is, but it's also a lot of fun. So
Yes.
I was more worried about him because all of his family is here and all that, or is in New York. But he loves it down here too. So it worked out for everyone.
Yeah, I totally hear you and can relate because I come from Eastern Europe and the capital where I went to high school, and even when you travel to the bigger cities, there's like kind of all the cultural aspects and events and things to do, but then there's that lack of convenience. There's an
Sure.
extra hassle. You carrying your groceries to the fifth floor. You're
Yeah.
really driving up, and the convenience of life is definitely a big plus for Raleigh. And
Mhm.
how did you get into real estate? So you moved and you said you got into real estate about 5 years ago. So you were doing something else before.
Yeah. Well, in New York, for most of the time I was there, I was a prop stylist and a set stylist. So I was a creative and I worked on film and TV and digital and commercial productions and just staged and styled interiors and sets and tablescapes and things like that. Um, but after many years of, I did that for say 7 years, I think,
Mhm.
I got tired of, freelancing. You're always kind of hustling for your next job.
Mhm.
And I started romanticizing, like, oh, I want a salary job. Like that started sounding like, amazing, benefits and, how much you make every week and, all that. So that became my new goal. And, I somehow managed to parlay just like a connection I made at a baby shower of all things. And all this digital production experience I had. And I wound up as this was a very fancy title, but I didn't, all I did was PowerPoints. So, but I still say the title because I'm still proud I managed to get it. But I was what was it? I was the senior manager of global digital content for Maybelline Corporate for a very short period of time. I thought I really made it after I got that job. And it was a total nightmare once I got there. I was like, this is
Mhm.
terrible. I don't know why you all act like your hair's on fire because like we don't even do anything. Like I thought I'd be overseeing production, but
Mhm.
we hired production companies. So I was just doing very top line things. So I didn't really understand why everyone was um, acting like everything was such an emergency when in my mind what were we actually doing? Um, and there were also just some the beauty industry is just sort of very intense and immediately I was like, oh no, this is not going to be good. Of course you want to like stick it out because it's this great company, I was making a lot of money, I had this great title, but my body was just like screaming. I felt like that dread in my stomach every day when you just like
Mhm.
dread going to work. I was like
Mhm.
crying all the time at home. I was like, you know picking up bad habits. I was just, it was bad. And I just knew that I can't stay here a year. This is terrible. So I had a really particularly nasty boss. And when she left on her vacation, I was just like, you know what? I quit. How about that? I quit. Um, and I didn't really know what I was going to do after that. And I'll just be totally honest, like I had a fallback. Like we had my husband's income. We could afford our living setup on just one income for a while.
Mhm.
So I was like, I'm just going to figure this out later because like I physically cannot
Mhm.
do this anymore. And from there, this is a very long-winded answer for how I became a realtor, but um, I, well, for a couple weeks, I was like, I'm just going to have an Etsy shop. I'm going to sew pillows. That's what I think this was like a trauma response because I'm actually like very social. I don't actually want to sit inside my apartment all day sewing pillows. And it takes me like 15 hours to make a really nice pillow with piping and details and all that. So if you pay me minimum wage and we're doing my materials, then we're going to ship it to someone and give Etsy a cut. Like, how much does that pillow need to cost? And like, how much do they cost at Home Goods? Like, that's not a business. Um, yes. So that was just me being like traumatized by this terrible job.
Mhm.
So yeah, after 2 weeks of sewing, I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll get a job. I'm kind of lonely. um, so I wanted this is what I told myself. I was like, I'm just going to get some dumb, easy job. I'm not even going to put it on my resume. I'll just get it for the summer and I'll just kind of get some income coming in and I'll just figure out what to do
Mhm.
next for real. Um, so I applied to a job is in Long Island, and we were in Queens. So everyone else is commuting into the city. I was commuting out of the city, which was nice. It was like a little more peaceful.
Yeah.
Um, and I was an assistant to a sales executive at Safavia, which is like a big rug furniture, lighting home company.
Okay.
And I just thought I'd be doing like data entry and just like kind of mindless work. And I was like, okay, that's perfect. Um, but when I got there, my cubicle happened to be like right outside the CEO's office. And I just made it a point to get to know him and let him get to know me. And he just thought I was funny and smart and, you know, gave me like one little account, and then I grew the sales in that account and give me one more little account.
Mm.
And then pretty soon I just got, some bigger accounts and some bigger accounts. And, I got promoted within like a couple months. I wasn't anyone's assistant anymore. Like I was a sales executive now, much to the gal I was assisting's dismay. Sorry. But I became a little like addicted to this rush of moving as much product as I could with these buyers. So we'd meet a couple times a year. I worked with a big Fortune 500 company that everyone shops at. And so you meet with these buyers. They're very tough ladies. They want their deals, and you have to work it out and make a deal and see if you can move like a container of product, basically. And, you do your chitty chat, and then you walk around the showroom and show them the product. And then you sit down and you show them your inventory sheets and, get into it over, it's not price per square foot when it's a rug, it's price per inch. But those meetings, a lot of my coworkers, they felt like that dread feeling that I talked about at Maybelline. They felt, sick before those meetings. They hated them. They were so anxious. And I was just like pumped. I was like, let's go. Like I would get so hyped to like get in there and make a deal. At first, my CEO would come with me. I learned so much from him. But eventually I was able to just handle them myself. And I just really loved just like growing my volume, seeing how much I could sell, if I could sell more, if I could move more the next month, how much could I do month to month? Could I beat the last month? So I just really got into the competitive, me versus me, like side of the sales part of it. And I was very good at it. Sales is more of it's a personality type more than anything else. It's a very soft skill. It's not like, arguably, it's like, yeah, you can go to workshops and pick up some skills regarding sales stuff, but really it's a personality thing. And like, you need to connect with people and you need to hear what they need, but you also need to advocate for what your side needs. You have to have confidence, but you also have to be able to connect. And I was just really enjoyed the work and I was really good at it. And from there, I started, the company was wonderful because they let me do whatever I wanted as long as could sell more and more and more. So it's like, okay, you want this trend? We don't have this trend. I'm going to go develop a line for you and I'm going to come back. And by the next time we have this meeting, I'm going to have this line in production for you. So I started developing like custom collections with our design department so we could like push more product, more product, more product. And then working with the factories directly overseas to make sure we just constantly had a pipeline of product flowing. Yeah, so that was like supposed to be like my stupid job that I wasn't even going to put on my resume. And I just like, I loved it. If you're still in New York, I'd still be working there. And yeah, so when we had the seed was planted for this move, I was like, okay, well, I love sales. Like this is exhilarating. I'm very well suited for this, but ultimately, like, it is a lot more gratifying to like help a family get a house than it is to sell like a container of rugs. So it's more gratifying work. And I didn't want to be in my cubicle anymore, and I also really missed the creative part of what I did before that job. I missed the styling and, being hands-on and, making things pretty and being creative. So with the listings, that's what I do. Like I have a big storage unit filled with, accessories and artwork and textiles and things like that. And I'm very hands-on with that process. And it gives me a nice sort of creative fix. I'm doing it later this afternoon, even to just be able to go into a home. I get a whole plan sorted for them and tell them, okay, you're going to put away that, you're going to put away this, let's move this here. So I kind of work with what they have and then style it and, try to make the marketing, magazine worthy for everybody, regardless of price point. So that once that kind of vision clicked in my head, it's just like, all right, that's what we're going to do. And I was just pretty laser focused on that. And then when we moved to Raleigh, I was fairly big pregnant. Um, so I had that baby and waited till I guess he was almost a year old when I got the license.
Okay.
And I knew we would have another child, but I didn't want to wait till after the second. So I just kind of did as much as I could. I was pregnant with the next baby by the time I had my first deal under contract.
Okay.
And then like the big pandemic hit too, which is like an awkward time to be pregnant, like out in public. Um, but I just kind of hung in there and struggled along, and I just kept to the vision, basically, knowing that if I stuck out those years, then I could arrive, basically.
Oh my God, as you're telling the story of kind of the pivots and inflection points and kind of the how the breadcrumbs are aligning, and then you get to the real estate, I was like, oh my God, this all makes sense. And now this is like a perfect combination of kind of
Yeah.
all of those things, the aspects of the things that you've done, and it makes so much sense.
Yeah, it did. And I honestly, because it made so much sense, I was like, oh, I'm gonna crush it. Like out of the gate, I'm gonna be one of those people who's like rookie of the year and like
Mm.
comes out of the gate and just like is a star immediately. I just kind of assumed that would happen to me, which was arrogant in retrospect. I didn't know anyone in Raleigh other than my parents. Um, I had no network whatsoever. And, this is not like my sales job where they're like, here's the account, you know?
Mm.
um, so that was like a misguided belief that I would just crush right out of the gate. I did not. I had like 2 very, very slow years where I made basically nothing. Um, yeah. And so it took a lot of, and that is a more common experience than crushing your first year of real estate. And that's why most people end up quitting because they quit before their traction is about to happen. So I'm lucky that I don't know if it's just stubborn or resilient or like some combination of all of that. But I was like, no, we're doing this until it happens.
Mm. So there are two things that came to me as you're saying it. Two things that I think also others will be able to relate, especially if they're thinking about a change, they're planning a change, whether it's by their own choice, that they're no longer happy or feel like they're, just living the Groundhog Day over and over again, or whether it's, by circumstance. Sometimes people get laid off, right? And then
Yeah.
they have to make a choice. Is one. First of all, it probably wasn't misguided because you knew yourself. You had the belief in yourself, and you honestly had the track record, right, to back it up. But second of all, is also that expectation and being prepared that the runway will be longer and that you really, I think this is kind of not talked enough, is when you're making a change, is how long does it take and what do you realistically need to be prepared for?
Yeah, definitely. I think being realistic about that is what will keep you from quitting. And if you have, obviously sometimes you get forced into a pivot. Like you said, if you get laid off, then you just have to like figure it out.
Mhm.
But if you have some time to prepare, then you maybe have some time to like pad your savings. Or if you do have like a dual income household, then like you have time to like make it work on that one income, knowing that that other side is going to be light for a while. Because it was a little stressful, we went from years of being able to like no kids to great jobs, being able to save all this money, being like, we are saving nothing. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's fine. That is fine. Because we just need to get through this period and it'll be worth it. But if you don't have that vision and if you don't believe in it, then you're not gonna be able to sustain that ramp
Mhm.
to get going.
Yeah, because it's also easy then to be um, seduced or kind of start jumping around, pivoting, right? Like, okay, you're like, okay, 3 months go by, but if I still don't have income, maybe I should try something else. Where did you get the confidence, or when did you know, and how did you know that real estate will be the thing for you?
Um, well, this is this is like a little off color, but to be honest, I saw I would look around at some these people who are making a living being agents, and I was like, if they can do it, I can do it. So there was some of that. Like sometimes the bar is low. Like there's people acting like not very professionally
Mhm.
or um just not putting in some great effort, people who just don't feel like the best and brightest out there, and they're doing just fine making a living. So I have that in my mind. I'm like, if these people are doing it, I can do it.
Mhm.
And I just had to rely on that history of skills and experience, remembering what I did at that job, that sales job, and how naturally that came to me. And then just like relishing any little win I would get along the way. So I didn't have some big network. So the first thing you do when you become a realtor, they're like, okay, call everyone you know and tell them you're in real estate and ask them if they need anything. I'm like, okay. So I call my mom, that's all I can, who else can I call? So then I had to do I just had to be creative and do whatever I could to connect with whomever I could and do some kind of scrappy stuff to just meet and talk to as many people as I could about it. And anytime you get like the lead or anytime you get someone who wants you to help them, you just have to take that win as evidence. And sometimes the evidence is very slight at the beginning. And I do think just even more so than like the evidence of all the things in your past that will tell you why this is a good idea. Because for all of that, there's going to be a lot of people who tell you, oh, most realtors fail, which is true. It's like 80 some percent will quit. Or, whatever it is, most new businesses fail. Or most, there will always be people who will tell you all the reasons it doesn't make sense, including like one part of your brain might be telling you that too.
Mhm.
Um, but the vision has to be the loudest thing of all. Like your unwavering commitment to your dream and what you see, and like you have to know it's true. You're going to believe it more than anyone else will. And
Mhm.
you just have to, it has to be louder than any negative self-talk, any talk from anyone else who's saying it doesn't make sense. If you're not your own biggest cheerleader in these transitions, then it's not going to happen because no one else is going to do that for you, in my experience. And I had some good supportive cheerleaders. Like my husband was supportive, my family was supportive, and they believed in me. But like it is hard to weather lean years as you get these things going. Um, and yeah, the vision matters more than anything, I think.
And what was your vision? Like, what did you come back to, especially throughout those first couple of years?
Yeah. Um, I wanted to be elite in my field. I wanted to do more than make a living in it. Like I wanted an exemplary level of success. And that is what I saw for myself. And it, yeah, like I said, like, I mean, even though I always pictured my own brand and all that, like I still ended up joining with a mentor after a year just because I just felt like I just needed like a close touch mentor person around to like help me get going. So I had 2 years with a great mentor. And her and I are still really close. Like her office is like just over there. And, that wasn't part of my like inline vision, being on someone else's team, working on someone else's brand. But like you gotta humble yourself and know to yourself and to know when you need more support or more wisdom, or how can you learn from someone else who's been doing this for 30 years? You don't have to make their mistakes. Can you skip ahead and learn from them? So finding a lot of mentors was very helpful. But yeah, that was always and still is what I want, even when I'm like talking to my, I have a slew of support people, like including like a systems coach, like a business systems coach. And
Mhm.
I'll be down if I'm down about production, like Q1 was slow across the board nationally just because of interest rates and things like that. Um, so I was started off the year behind on a goal, and that's hard for me personally.
Mhm.
Um, and she will tell me, like, even what you're doing right now, like, do you understand that, like, you are selling, like, objectively doing very well and selling a lot compared to, people who will do this their whole lives and not be selling this much. But I still just want my curve. I don't want it to be straight and to the right. Like, I want that exponential growth curve.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just still want to, that's still my vision, is just to be an elite in this arena.
To the ambition and that competitiveness that you described also in the sales job that you had.
Yeah. Yes. I guess I'm just kind of wired that way, I guess.
Mm.
Like we spend so much time of our lives at work. Like I can't just like do a job. Like even when I meant to just go to that cubicle and do that job, it was like, oh, that's the CEO, huh?
Yeah, your brain is like turning, your mind is
Yeah, like let's see what we can do here. Yeah, because and especially like if you're an entrepreneur, like it's more than your job. Like it has to be your passion and kind of your addiction sometimes. Like you got to rein that part in too, to not burn out, drive your family crazy and all that. But um you have to be that hungry for it, because like when I'm sitting here in this office, like I'm not paid for those hours. I get paid based on my success and the wins I deliver to people. And that's a hard mind shift for people to make. And I've seen people try, and I'm like, they try to get their business going, but I'm like, I don't see you in the office. And I think some people, it's hard for them to make that shift of, yeah, there's going to be a lot of hours before you see return. And
Mm.
that's part of it.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, so what should somebody be prepared for? Let's say they're in corporate or working for a company like you were, and then you have this paycheck, right, being deposited in your account every week, every couple of weeks. And as we were talking about the runway, right, year, 2 years, how I've also talked to people, that kind of the idea or the vision or the story that's being sold about entrepreneurship. Oh, now you're making your own hours, you're like, you have the freedom.
Yeah.
But how many hours, like, were you working? Like, how much work was it in the initial couple of years to get it up and running?
It's so funny too. People say that specifically about real estate too. They're like, oh, you make your own schedule and oh, it's just so flexible. And like, it is part of it is true, right? Like I go to Pilates at noon a couple times a week, and I can do that because I'm the boss. It's my
Mhm.
business, you know. Granted, it's only like 45 minutes, and it's next door to my office. But or if I want to volunteer at kindergarten, like my kids' class, like I can do that in the middle of the day, and that is a luxury, and it's a big win of the job to be able to do stuff like that. However, I am at everyone else's beck and call. So when my clients need to see something, like I need to be there.
Mhm.
So it's like, oh, you make your own schedule. No, you have a dozen people who are informing your schedule. Um, so and there's no such thing as like, oh, I'm just gonna have this weekend off. Like I work every day, period. Like I try to not work Sundays
Mhm.
and just have a family day. But like, I still, if I'm not gonna like leave someone hanging if they need something, like I try to divert appointments where if we can be doing something Saturday or Sunday, I'm going to move my buyers to Saturday because honestly, things sell Saturday. Like I don't want people to wait till Sunday anyway.
Mhm.
Um, but like I'm not going to like sit on your offer or like not counter or I'm not going to fail someone because I want to be at the pool at Sunday.
Yeah.
And same with vacations. Like, you go out and you'll have coverage. for boots on the ground, but your clients still want you. They want your opinion. And, I'm not going to leave people hanging then either. So it's kind of a no days off situation. And when I was first starting, I I still was in the office like it was a 9 to 5. I didn't even know what to do. I wrote just like tons of like handwritten letters because I literally just didn't know what else to do. And I am trying not to do this anymore, only when I really need to. But like back then, like as soon as my kids would go to bed, like I'd still work from 8 to 10 and just like constantly like have my just that laptop burning my eyes in the dark. And I try to
Yeah.
not do that anymore and be like, you know what, it actually is okay for this to wait till the morning. No one is expecting this back in their email at 11 p.m. Or sometimes it was just marketing things and it wasn't even tied to a client at that point. But um, it was all the time, but it was a drive I put on myself
Hmm.
to have that work ethic. Just as many people start and they're like, I don't have any work. I don't have any clients. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Hmm.
And then they just don't do anything. And then they wonder why the clients don't show.
Hmm.
And I was not that person.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was still putting in the hours before I had the clients, which, that's a hard shift to make because, our clients are not getting paid.
And it's the hardest thing because, like, sometimes it's like, what do you do? Because you don't kind of have a template of success. So, did you get a mentor right away?
No, I flailed around for like a year
Mhm.
by myself. Um, I did get to know people in the office. That was also very important for me to go to the office because you can just, honestly, you can like eavesdrop people who are very successful in making calls and hear the kind of language they use and how they deal with things.
Mhm.
And you can also learn when they have a new listing coming on in a neighborhood you want to be working in and say, hey, can I work your open house? Oh, you're going out of town. Do you need help covering?
Mhm.
You can find opportunities like that when you are in the office. You do not find them when you sit at home, which is also a problem I think people have, especially as we got so used to remote work in real estate, especially like people. Yes, you can work from home if you want. And once you're established, you might prefer that. But if you're just getting started, like you need to be in the office and picking up as much opportunity and wisdom as you can.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, eventually I did want to just be in closer touch with a mentor. I never wanted, there's a phenomenon in real estate like paid leads. Like you click that button on Zillow, it says like talk to the agent. They make it sound like you're talking to the list agent. In reality, they sell that click out to it's typically a pretty junior agent whose team is buying them. I never wanted that business set up because you're just chasing randoms and it's pretty joyless.
Mhm.
Um, but I did want to learn from someone who had been doing this a long time.
Mhm.
And you also get the benefit because it's very hard that first year or two, like you have to be able to answer questions and you don't have your own numbers, or you do, but they're 0 or 1. How many deals have you closed? You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
you operate the whole time just living in fear that like someone's going to ask you that.
Yeah.
And you have to have a way to answer truthfully. You can't lie, but you need to have a spin to get around those questions. And the way to get around it is when you're on a team, you can talk about your team's numbers. We do this much a year. We sold this much last month.
Mhm.
You can truthfully use your team's metrics to
Yeah.
boost your own because you don't have numbers at first. And
Yeah.
truthfully, if you operate with enough confidence, people don't actually ask that question. But sometimes they do, and you need to be ready and not just like stumbling over yourself.
Yeah, no, this is a really good point. I think any transition, any change, that's something that will be one of the things that you need to be prepared for and kind of have the
Yeah.
language, practice the verbiage, and kind of anticipate ahead of time and
Hmm.
think what could be those
Yeah,
answers.
it's like yeah, like you should literally have that scripted. If
Yeah.
someone you're trying to work with asks you how long you've been doing this, if you're not working with someone else and you can't, use that example I just said, then maybe you're talking about your prior work that related. I've been helping people through blah, blah, blah for this long. Or you can find something
Yes.
other than, I just started this a
Yes.
couple months ago. Like you need something and you do not want to be stumbling for that question on the spot. So those are something that's in real estate or in sales in general, you call that an objection, which is like a reason someone doesn't want to work with you or a reason someone doesn't want to buy the house. You need to be able to answer those objections quickly and confidently, and then people move on. It's okay. But if you're just like,
Yeah.
then you're losing that person.
Yeah, no, definitely. And this is also the other point that you brought up. It kind of ties in is that you're not getting paid, but you still need to seek out kind of that going to the office, working, like in your case it was other people's open houses. I think it's kind of hard transition to make where you made like x number of money before, in a job, and you have a mindset, well, I'm worth, right? And that's kind of like the almost becomes the measuring point kind of. And I think it's hard to adjust to go back to kind of that more novice stage in something else, and then realizing that you will have to do some work for free or much lower pay,
Mm-hmm.
and it might be many more hours, and kind of when you divide it by hourly, it will go, it will be like potentially a huge difference, in the first couple of years between what you used to make in a successful corporate career versus
Yeah.
something on your own.
Yes. And it is very humbling to be new and to not be a star or established or something. Like that was hard for me. Um, and yeah, there are definitely like emotional lows tied to that. I mean, still like I sell a lot, but I am at like an elite brokerage. Like I'm at Compass. Um, And most firms in town, like if you have a pulse and a real estate license, they'll take you, but you have to produce a certain amount to work here to begin with, to affiliate here.
Mhm.
Um, so it is hard not to be in that comparison mindset, comparing myself to my mentors in the office who, sell 3 or 4 times what I do in a year. I have to remind myself, they've been doing this 15 years or 30 years or whatever it is. Like they have years on me. And you just need to, instead of letting it get you down, it has to be like, okay, what can I learn from them? How can I take their success as evidence of what I can do too? And like, let it be a positive thing for you.
Mhm.
And because I mean, and that's something I have to remind myself because I'm not going to lie. Like, I still um, get down about that because I was still, even when I started at Compass, which was first on this team, because I didn't even qualify to be here when I came, the back door into Compass is on a team. And going to that first like corporate retreat with like agents nationwide, when you meet people, you hand them your, you do this little Compass app. It has your QR code pop up and it's on your badge too. The first thing that pops up is your 2-year production
Oh,
average. How much did you sell? What's your average price point? And like that was brutal for me, to be around these people who are, and also they're in markets like, where things are 3, 4, 5, 10, $15 million homes. Like we just don't even have that price point here. So
yeah.
our numbers are, even if you're doing amazing here, you're not going to have numbers like someone who lives in like Palm Beach or LA or New York City or something like that. So yeah, it was very humbling to say the least, to be green anywhere, but to be green at Compass. But you just have to like let those people inspire you. And honestly, people love giving advice and feeling important and special. So when you meet an agent like that you admire, it's like, hey, can I get on your calendar and like, will you tell me about how you built this?
Mhm.
And they're like, yeah. And then when they find you smart and charming, you know, they'll send you referrals. Like people like an underdog who's like up and coming, who they think is talented. They will give you opportunities and connections. So I was not shy at all about reaching out to big dogs, befriending them, trying to get them in my corner. And a big chunk of my business is coming from these agents across the country now. So even when I was brand new, like I still went to that conference
Mm.
and just like stay at home until I was proud of my numbers, you know?
That's amazing. I think, I mean, everything what I've seen, and definitely people can connect with you. We'll put it in the show notes, and then you'll share. But your story is really amazing, and what you're doing is really admirable. And your work
Thank you.
ethic and the standard definitely comes through. Definitely, from everything that you post, and it's super super engaging. Did you start out with the compass? Right away?
No, I was when I started. Compass wasn't even in Raleigh. It was always a brand I admired because the marketing is like very chic and it just looked totally different than like any real estate firm. Just looked very modern and everything was so beautiful and black and white and modern and crispy and elegant. But I started off at Cobble Banker, which is just like a big old classic firm,
Yeah.
and it helps. It made sense at the time because it was the number one firm in town. So that is something I could say. That's a metric that I could borrow. I didn't help give us that metric, but I could still say we're the number one office of the number one firm.
Yeah.
Um, so it made sense at the time. And yeah, I have no complaints there. But when Compass came to town, I was like, ooh, I want to be a Compass agent. And I didn't remotely qualify. Um, But that's another reason why the team made sense. An agent that I always I didn't know her at Coldwell Banker, but she was at the same firm. And I had a friend who worked with her, and I was always hearing, like, oh, her name's Kate. I was doing Kate's open house, or Kate's going to get this apartment complex, or Kate's going to, all these opportunities, Kate. And I was like, man, that sounds nice. No one's helping me, So yeah, I saw in Kate made an Instagram post saying she was going to Compass and she wanted to build out a team. And I was just like, all right, that's it. That's your sign. Just go with Kate. So I moved on over to Compass with Kate and it was a great move.
So you kind of already had the vision, talking about the vision for yourself, that you wanted there was this level, kind of that more premier Nordstrom, whatever experience that
Yeah.
you had envisioned being a part of and also creating.
Yeah. And it's interesting because like I asked someone when I was still like in the dreaming stage of this. It was actually a friend that I had like online and like one of those like birth boards of like other moms who are going to have a March whatever baby. And she was an agent. I know this is funny. And she's still a good friend of mine, which is funny. I was talking to her about it and I was like, okay, well, if I want to sell high end, then you got to like start down here and you work your way up to that, right? And she was like, no, you just present yourself like that and you just need to do it right out of the gate. I was like, oh, okay, that's a different kind of concept because whatever you start doing is what people associate you with, basically. So from the beginning, the like high end branding was important to me. So Coldwell Banker is just, it's an older firm, but it's still it was sophisticated.
Mhm.
I look good in navy, whatever. It was
Conservative, like, yeah.
yeah, it was established. It's a heritage brand. It's like a trusted flagship
Mhm.
kind of brand. So it made sense there. But yes, Compass was definitely more aligned, but it wasn't in town. So it is something that I like had on like in the dream board of my brain and like waited for that opportunity to come to me, basically.
I love this. And like, I had like a goosebump moment because so I was in recruiting, in corporate recruiting,
Mhm.
hiring for large companies for 15 years. And I remember that at the beginning of more, towards the beginning of my career, one of my managers said, "What is your brand as a recruiter? Who do you want to
Mm,
be? Do you, because like across anything, whether it's real estate, whether it's any profession, right? You can find people that are paid at different levels that
yeah.
provide a different of level service. Like, do you want to be a high volume recruiter or do you want to be the Nordstrom of recruiting, And like,
Yeah.
and this is like when you were speaking to me, reminded me of what he told me. And I love what you're sharing with everybody is that you don't have to buy into that if you are pivoting, if you are starting something new, that you have to 10 years, be kind of on the bottom of the totem pole, that you can shoot for it. That you can decide and have that vision and have that ambition to
Yeah.
go and build something that is top of the line, upscale.
Yeah. And it's not even that I'm not helping, you know, first time home buyers or people at lower end budgets. Like, if you send me a message, I'd be glad to help you. Like I help all price points. And even with the listings too, like, okay, you get a listing for 450, like how high end can you make it look?
Mhm.
Can you still give them like a luxury experience um, that makes them feel like
Yeah.
very attended to, paying it, listening to like little cues they give you about what matters to them? Can you make it feel like a high end experience for them? And can you present it like in your marketing? Like how high end can you make that piece of real estate look? So it's not even about just like poo-pooing like lower end
Yeah.
deals or anything. Like I'll take, I'll take them all day long, but it's about how you're marketing yourself and the kind of opportunities you're seeking too. So when I first started, I do like any open house, anytime, anywhere.
Yeah.
Now I am a little pickier about it because when you're doing an open house, you're trying to attract the buyers,
Mhm.
and those buyers are who you're driving out for every weekend. And it's you need to be picky. Like I can't drive to Angier every weekend. And also, I can't give a high level of service if I'm driving an hour away. You know what I mean? Like, I can't get there on a dime. I can't.
Yeah.
So, I'm more strategic about what I take. So, when I work an open house, it's not my listing. Like, it's going to be a higher end home in North Raleigh, which is where I live. So it's very easy for me to be around there. And when you look at the map of like where I sell and list, like it's very North Raleigh concentrated. And I just love that area. So I can speak very passionately about it. I can talk about the zoning. I can talk about the environmental codes. I can talk about the schools. I can, that enthusiasm, that expertise comes through. So it becomes naturally aligned.
Mhm.
And then with the branding too, like you see people who are like, oh, I'm luxury. And it's like, they're taking themselves so seriously, and it's like, all right, man, like relax. Like I didn't want that to be the ideal. And you can see like my branding is like fun and
Mhm.
whimsical. And most of the time when people come to me, they say, I just thought you'd be fun to work with, like people who come to me on Instagram. So I did want to have the balance between like, yes, we're giving a high end level of service, we are going for excellence with the job, and yes, shooting for high price points. However, um, you're still dealing with authentically me. There's still a lot of creativity and style. And I find joy in the job. Like, this is not about me just like taking myself so seriously because I'm a
Yeah.
luxury agent. Like, that stuff, people can, I think that turns people off. Or if you're the kind of person that's into that, then I don't want to attract people who are also taking themselves so seriously.
Yeah.
So when I was developing all this branding, when I was getting ready to leave the team and develop my own brand, that is something I wanted to come across, like in the graphics, in the imagery,
Yeah.
in everything, that this is also just about exuberance and joy and making this process positive and fun. And I got a little pushback from that too. Oh, the hot pink is so girly. I don't care. Who do you think reaches out to me? Like, the wives reach out to me.
Mhm.
Like, the amount of husbands who message me first is very little comparatively. So I don't care if it's girly, because it's the wives who are like, oh, we're moving. Will you help us? Like, they tend to be the ones doing the
Yeah.
research,
Yeah.
doing the deep dives. And Honestly, single women outpace single men on home ownership by a huge amount. So like, I don't care. And I do have more neutral colors that I use as well. Um, but yeah, when someone said, oh, well, the hot pink this was like a different little training program I did that I've since stopped doing. Like, oh, the hot pink is loud and it's feminine. I was like, well, perfect. Me too. Great.
I love it.
Don't
No,
care.
it's all perfect. Like I love the breaks, like even your posts and everything. Like who wants boring, or who wants like uh,
Yeah.
something
Well,
that doesn't evoke any emotion,
there's 16,000 agents in the Triangle area. Like
Yeah,
and when you first come out the gate, everyone is like realtor robot. Like you want to
yeah.
be
I think it's
professional,
brilliant. You don't want to blend it.
like you want to be professional and like make the same kind of posts as everyone else. And it's all very business heavy. Um, but
Unforgettable,
you learn that like
boring.
no one connects to that. No one is like, oh, I really want to work with Allie because she gave a market update graphic image. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, I still do post business posts, just sold under contract, blah, blah, because it's important for people to see that, like, I really am full time in business making deals. However, that's not what people engage with. Like, they engage with like the funnier stuff or just me being myself or
yeah,
personal life stuff.
yeah,
Um, it is just authenticity is what will make someone connect with you out of the 16,000 other options in the area.
yeah. I love the post you did, like cringe things I did when I started.
Yeah. It's funny that post um, got me like maybe 100+ new followers, and I'm still getting notifications about it, even though it's like weeks old.
Yeah,
And I made that post after I saw Sarah Blakely, who's the founder CEO of Spanx, um, who's just an amazing entrepreneur. She did things that's just like the crazy stuff she did to get like Spanx off the ground, and I was like, oh, I have stories like that. So I just went back and like found old photos of me just starting. Um, yeah, and talked about the weird, scrappy stuff I did. So yeah, like leaving notes on cars and handwriting those letters and working COVID open houses and
going to
uh,
concerts with us.
yeah, and holding up a sign at a concert, just like the weird, like the cringiest stuff, because like that's just what it took. And so I think that's being pushed to other entrepreneurs and agents because that's who's following me now from that post. Um,
And
but
I'm
it's
not an
funny.
agent, but it was pushed to me. So
Yeah. I think other entrepreneurs too, like anyone trying to start something, I think is probably the algorithms feeding that to them. But people like it because like sometimes we're guilty of making it look too easy. And even though I compare myself to, all these mentors I'm talking about who, you know, outsell my quarter, on a Tuesday or something, there are still, like I run our YPN and like there are new agents that like look up to me and my volume. And I've even like complained at like I have friends all over the country now from Compass and I'll be like complaining of, oh man, I wanted to hit this number. I'm off track from it. And my number, like my goals are always like astronomically
yeah,
ambitious anyway. So I don't know why I torture myself like that. And I'll be like complaining. She's like, well, I don't mean to make you feel bad, Allie, but like I look at you and I want to just sell what you sell. And I'm like, oh, thank you.
perspective.
Yeah. And like me, even a couple years ago, like I would have been thrilled to produce what I produce now. So it's helpful to reflect on the scrappier times, like, oh man, like I still work hard, but like at least I'm not like I don't really leave notes on cars anymore. And I'm
Yeah.
not like now I'm writing birthday cards to my clients, but I'm not handwriting letters for hours. And yeah, it's nice to give yourself credit sometimes, especially if you're the personality type that's very push, 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 push.
Yeah.
You have to like take a minute and like give yourself a back pat. And I think that's why people liked that post because it admitted that it wasn't easy to get to where I am. And also encourages other people to like, yeah, you got to get out there and like hustle for it if you want this to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it shows like the reality of it, or I think it's just not talked enough about, like it's like the end story, the success
Yeah.
story, but I think the juiciness and the value and kind of the most painful point, one of the most painful points is when you're starting, when you don't know, when you're like trying to make it happen, and it's like
Yeah.
nobody's cheering for you, so seeing that is like a relief, right?
Yeah. And there's the whole like fake it till you make it
Yeah.
thing, which is true. Like it's not like I was admitting to being this like scrappy on my Instagram while I was doing it because I wanted to seem like I was a
Incredible.
professional full-time realtor. I mean, I was full-time in the sense that I was working full-time, but like I didn't have a full-time client load.
Mm.
Um, so the fake it till you make it thing, start to make it, and then you don't show anyone what was happening back there.
Mhm.
So I think that's why Sarah Blakely's posted so well. And I think that's why mine did so well. And
Mhm.
then she commented on mine and I was like,
Oh my God. Did you tag her? Or was it, had you tagged her? Or?
yeah, I just sent it to her, like sent it to her DMs. And I'm like, she's got like millions of followers. I was like, she's never going to see this.
That's cool.
Um, but she came into mine. She commented, she said, I love this. And gave me a little heart. And I was like,
That is so
great.
cool.
Yeah.
So what do you actually, I've had a few conversations about kind of this line that you were talking about and sharing. Do you think you have to wait till you are credible or successful to share kind of the behind the scenes of your beginning, or kind of what's it like, there's this point of view that vulnerability is what will make you or help you grow versus let me go through my mess and only start posting
Yeah.
when.
Um, I think people want to see you succeed. So it is okay to be newer at something and to be vulnerable, and people will want to support you and make it happen. With real estate, it's a little trickier because these are people's like whole life savings. And this is their house. Like it is like not a low stakes investment for people. So it's a little more intense with the quote unquote product we're selling because, like it is a tremendous amount of money
Yeah.
and like it's a big life pivot for people. And it's a family, like it's like a huge life transition.
Yeah.
So it is a bit heavier doing what I'm doing versus if you're trying to sell like fitness coaching. You know what I mean? It's like a little lower stakes. Someone could just like quit your program if they're not happy versus, if something goes wrong with their house transaction, like they can be quite unhappy. But I do think you will get a little more credit and support than you might imagine if you're like, hey, I am launching this thing. I want 50 email signups my first month. Can you help me reach my goal? And I think people will be, especially other people who have
Mhm.
started things like that, um, will jump in line to support you and help you, especially if you're making an ask that's not like, hey, will you use me to list your house?
Mhm.
If you're just asking for introductions, or you're just yeah, asking for email signups or asking for things like that, that's not as heavy as an ask, or asking for people to share your content or things like that, then I think you might get some more support when you're in this sort of startup phase. I
Mhm.
don't think it has to be as cagey as we make it and as I even made it.
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah, real estate is a little trickier because it's a very high stakes transaction.
Yeah. No, I can see what you're saying, and I can see also it apply to other areas, even like the fitness coaching, like, but that's like, depending on your audience, one wrong move, people like safety, it's your body, I think you can
Sure.
kind of apply it to, I hear what you're saying totally. And I think people struggle with finding that balance
Yeah.
and telling that story, the authenticity versus being completely messy. And obviously, there's a range of,
And that's why, yeah, that's why that post was easier in retrospect, right?
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like, these are the things I did.
yeah,
I wasn't sharing about that publicly, at least while I was doing it. I might have showed a picture of like me holding the sign or something, but like
yeah,
um, yeah, like I wasn't as open about like all the ways I was trying to scrape a client together, because I wanted people to think I was already doing it. And it's interesting too, as this is very true in real estate. It might be true of lots of entrepreneur things, but your first clients are often not your friends and family because they know you're brand new. Um, a lot of times your supporters are going to come from like randos and like acquaintances on Instagram and like people who are meeting you without this whole baggage of history of, oh, she's this, she does that, she's a stay-at-home mom, she's a whatever. Like they have all these a lifetime of knowing you, and that's how they think of you, and they haven't like adapted to like this vision you have that has not come true yet. So sometimes those people come last,
yeah.
and that's
It
a
can
hard
be
way to deal
very
with too.
painful and hurtful,
It
actually.
is hurtful. It happens all the time in real estate when like friends work with someone else. And sometimes it's just like, man, I just didn't want you to see every dime I have and know my credit score. And you know what I mean? Like it's a very,
Mhm.
so sometimes people just don't want to be messy like that. And, that's their call. Um, but yeah, it still like it is rejection heavy in general, this line of work. Like for every yes I get, I'm getting 10 no's.
Mhm.
So you just have to like be okay with that and
Yeah,
focus on your yeses and like take like 5 minutes for your pity party, but then you just need to move on
yeah.
to the next opportunity.
Yeah, I think with anything that you start, you just have to be prepared for the nose and keep going, like blinders on.
Yeah, the blinders to the vision is like again what makes it happen for people because it is very rejection heavy, especially at the beginning when you don't have this tremendous history portfolio, like whatever it is, like to fall back on metrics of success. You have like some metrics that you've like scraped together,
Mhm.
but mostly you have this vision of like, no, I'm going to be this, I swear.
Yeah,
And that's a harder sell. So you just need to find the next person who will believe in you and the next person who will believe in you and the next person. And like eventually you'll have
yeah.
data about your own success.
It's like you're on this treasure hunt for those
Mhm.
people, and you just don't know where they will come from. They will probably come from most unexpected places.
Mhm. Yeah, and this like I do like a ton of like affirmation work for
Okay.
this still. And one of the biggest ones is just clients come easily and frequently.
Mm.
And it's because now I am in a different place where it's less of me hustling and finding,
Mhm.
and people are coming to me, and
Mhm.
my phone does ring, and I get referrals, and my clients refer me to their friends. And so it is a little more
Inbound.
passive now.
Yeah.
Um, but sometimes it feels slow, and it's just like, who's next? And that's just where I like start hitting like affirmation work pretty hard and just say clients come easily and frequently. I surpass my goals with ease.
Mm.
Good people are attracted to me. Good people want to work with me, and keep putting yourself out there and just be as highly social as possible. Um, if ever I feel slow, it's like, all right, we need to be around more people. We need to be putting out more content and seeing who finds you, basically. I mean, I still do outbound marketing. I'm not going to make it seem
Mhm,
totally
mhm.
passive, but
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, but it's a little less like in the beginning, it's like I went and found every single deal.
I love what everything you're saying. I'm like, yes, yes. Like, there's like, I can go down this way. No, we can totally talk more about this. I want to be mindful of the time and that we are coming closer to wrapping up. I have two questions, two things that I just wanted you to share before we wrap.
Mhm.
Is first of all, how did the real estate, like that idea, even come to you, right? To do that after you had done the other things. And second of all, is tied to this kind of like beginning versus the not even versus but the setting your sights on a more luxury higher end experience or providing that kind of a service. Is that I think you see it in any line of work that somebody could have done it for 10, 20 years and they're really good at it, but their marketing, the way they speak, the way that they engage, they're still quote unquote sometimes struggling, or they're not like the experience has not brought them necessarily the success or kind of the next level of work or however you want to call it. So I just wanted you to talk about those two things.
Sure. It's hard to even like remember how real estate came into my head. Like it might have been when we would visit Raleigh and we'd go to open houses.
Mhm.
Because by the time you were house hunting in Raleigh, I knew I wanted to become licensed. Like the dream was already in place then. So I think working at Safavia, like around all this home stuff, and also when I was a stylist, like I was mostly doing like interiors and kitchen sets and all of that. Always loved like the HGTV and like even like the cheesy real estate shows, like $1 Million Listing and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Um, I I'm not quite sure where it came from. It's almost like all these little things just kind of clicked, and I was just like, yes.
And you were like, were you super confident in it, like, or
Mhm.
did you waver or
Nope. I was like, this is what we're doing. Because I did think through some other things for a minute. Like when I was at Safavia, I was like, well, I could get my master's in art history and become an art teacher. And my mom was like, no, like North Carolina is terrible to public school teachers, which is very unfortunate, true.
Mhm.
Much less an arts teacher.
Yeah.
And also like you're not a great teacher, to be honest. I'm not very patient. I am like I tried to teach my mom to knit, and 5 minutes later I'm like, why don't you get it? Like I'm just like, it's not my gift.
Yeah.
Um, so y- y- yes. So I was like, okay, well, I'm glad I didn't go get it. I mean, I love art history. That's like what I studied in college. So I guess that's what that came from.
Yeah.
That was a short-lived idea. But yes, once this sort of clicked and made sense in all these areas, and it is a low stakes thing to kind of start in a way because it's hard to make a career as a realtor. It is easy to get a license. I mean, North Carolina is like a harder state to for the test, but even still, it's not like you have to get a master's and
Mhm.
or an MBA and spend like 20 grand on business setup and get a loan. You know what I mean? Like there's a time commitment, you got to study. Um, but as far as starting new businesses goes, it's a pretty small buy-in. Um, so I think it's just a bunch of pieces came together and clicked. And then once it's a yes, I just never wavered.
Okay.
Um, and that started once we lived in New York and we're looking towards the move. And as far as um,
The setting the
getting
sights on
to,
the Yeah, the
yeah,
setting the sights on the more kind of upscale, even without
sure.
needing to have years and decades.
I had a friend, or not had, I have a friend who's wonderful. Her name's Colleen. She's a realtor in Indiana. And she last year or something got this $4 million horse farm listing. I was like, how did you get this like luxury listing? And she was like, I am luxury. I was like, yes, Colleen, yes. And I think about that sometimes because that is part of it. So if you want to be selling high-end things, I'm not saying you should like take a loan out for like a Birkin, but you know, think about it when you get dressed and present yourself well. And it's not even about what you spend, it's about just effort and polish. I think a lot of that is presentation and just thoughtfulness in presentation. Do you have it together? Do you have your presentation together when you go to pitch someone? Does your marketing seem aligned? Like, is like the website look like this and the branding look like that, but your email signature looks like this? Like, do you have a cohesive sort of marketing brand that speaks in front of you? Because oftentimes people can't even like verbalize branding, but it speaks to them subconsciously, you know? So
Mhm.
unless you're like in the world of marketing and advertising and you've done personal branding stuff, then you probably don't even know how to talk about it. But you just based on knowing me on Instagram and like
Mhm.
seeing this stuff in my background and seeing it come up on things, like you do have a subconscious idea of the brand before I've met you.
Yep.
So I think in terms of polish like that, being confident about it, putting yourself in as many situations as possible. So like if you want to be selling these homes, can you do tours of them? Like builders are very eager to be sharing their product. So can you go shoot reels in them? Can you give tours in them? Can you highlight high ends of town? Can you work those open houses? So having people associate you with as much as you can, even if you're living in like a $250,000 apartment, how often can you be in these homes and in these neighborhoods? And how often can you get the public to associate you with them?
Mhm.
Um, but a true luxury experience for people is about how people feel. And that's like written right on my desktop right here. It says how much value can you give today? How good can you make people feel?
Mhm.
Because if you ever get to stay, and Compass talks about this a lot actually, if you get to stay at a Ritz-Carlton, um, they and you tell them something like a little, there's lots of like kind of famous stories about this, but to tell them it's your anniversary, tell them it's your birthday, tell them you're sad your family couldn't be home for Christmas and it's Christmas time. Like they will do something for you. They will send up a gift. They've put Christmas trees in rooms before. And they've trained every single person on their staff to operate this. They've empowered everyone on their staff to operate this. So like even the valet, if they overhear like a pain point you have or a wish you have,
Mhm.
they will make that happen for you. And it's that thoughtfulness that gives people the luxury experience. It's not how nice the room is. Obviously, it's a nice room and that feels
Mhm.
great.
Yes.
But I've stayed at nice rooms calling themselves a five-star hotel. But like, if you know it's my anniversary and like nothing, you're not sending something up, or at least making note of it, or remembering our name, maybe,
Mhm.
uh, then that's not a five-star experience. So I think giving your clients a luxury experience is about listening. And like I'm always writing cues about like gifting ideas. Like if I hear you're into something or like a hobby or a sports team or something, then like that's always going in my notes. So I can give you something very personal at the end.
Mhm.
And just being able to do things outside the bounds of the transaction is
Mhm.
what makes people feel cared for
Mhm.
and makes people feel good, and that's what makes people remember and refer you to people. It's also feels very good to operate this way, so it serves you on many levels.
Mhm.
But it's also good business because that's what makes people remember and refer you, not when they get like this basket that like everyone is getting. um, but like when you remembered, okay, you're going to be in town and you wanted a babysitter for the night out. Like, here's a list of references, or any little pain point you can address that's outside the traditional realm of what your job is because you listened and you heard that that's something they're stressing about. That's a luxury experience for people. And that's what makes people refer you and trust you.
Mhm.
And then beyond that, too, I think people are making their first impression about you before you speak. So carrying yourself with confidence, and if you have to do like affirmations and voodoo and hype music and like whatever it takes for you to feel like that. But when you walk into a room and when you meet your friends and your friends' parents, who are often the people with these big time listings,
Mm.
like you need to be sure of yourself and look them in the eye and give them a good handshake and have complete supreme confidence, not like, oh, well, yeah, I'm a realtor, but I'm brand new. Like you cannot talk about yourself like that. You need to see yourself